Yeah, sure.
All right. So yeah, hey everyone. I guess we are audible. All right. So hello everyone. I'm Sathik Sethi, app dev lead of GDSC IIIT Kota, and we are here to uh, take the session on Compose Camp. This would be the fourth session or maybe the fifth session for the event, and we'll be covering basically the layouts and the navigation stuff in this. So if you guys have not joined any of the events previously, let me tell you what is Compose Camp. So Compose Camp is a community-based organized event focusing around how to build Android apps using Jetpack Compose, where the attendees gets hands-on exploding experience with Compose. So Jetpack Compose is the UI toolkit for creating interactive interfaces in the Android development area in the mobile field. Okay, so that can be handled using Jetpack Compose. So previously we have covered how to deal with the Android Studio and basic functions of Jetpack Compose and intro to Kotlin. So in this session, we'll be covering how to create UIs using basic layouts. All right. So if you proceed further, then yeah, let's talk about basically the schedule for today. So I'll be starting with the intro to layouts, how we define the layouts in Jetpack Compose and Kotlin, and what will be the different types of layout. After that, we'll be covering the material themes, and then using integration of all the threes, I'll be demonstrating a live screen creation on Android Studio, right? So if you guys have installed Android Studio on your device, then you may start to code along with me. Otherwise, I'll share the PPT itself. You may refer to it. Okay. And then after that, we'll have a Q&A session. Or otherwise, you guys may ask questions in between. I'll answer them accordingly. Okay. Right. So let us start the layouts in Compose. So what are basically the layouts? Layouts in Jetpack Compose provide a very declarative way of building the UI in an Android app. So I have presented a screen over here, and it represents a menu of any restaurant maybe, and it represents the dishes over here with the price and the dish name, right? So how does it look attractive? I mean, so this screen looks attractive basically with the help of layouts, like how the screen is going to be created, how the the inner elements are going to be organized or maybe settled in such a way that they look very subtle, right? So layouts are an essential component for creating UI, and Jetpack Compose already supports a few of them. This article will explore available layouts in Jetpack Compose combined with modifier alignments, arrangements that help to build the UI for of Android apps. Right. So there are many layout functions in Jetpack Compose library itself, which we'll be using along with its attributes or you may say arguments that will help create the screen to look more very attractive and subtle. Right. Okay. So let us talk about alignments. Right. So, what do you mean by alignment? Like, if we have to align a certain text or maybe a certain element, then we have to define a certain position to that element. For example, if I present, for example, this is a screen. I hope it is visible, right? You guys may answer.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So, if I present a screen like this and I want a text for maybe, if I write text over here, and I want the text to be displayed up to the topmost left corner over here, or maybe the bottom right corner. Yeah, so how do I align that text? The text can be aligned. The text. This is a function in Compose in which you can assign different arguments over here. For example, the name of the string, the padding values, and many other things. Right. So while align, changing its position, hmm, alignments can be classified into 9 different options. So these are top start, top center, top end, center start, center and center end, bottom start, bottom center and bottom end. So uh, top, center and bottom remains common in vertical alignment, and center start end remains constant in the horizontal alignment. So like in screen, if I have to demonstrate in the mobile, so this can be demonstrated like this. If it is not a maybe a desktop screen but a mobile screen, so it can be represented in this way. So this may be top start, and this may be center, and this may be the center end. So this is how we can arrange the text and the elements uh, in a specified way, that how the user wants it to be defined, right? So there are 9 options available in the alignment view. You can align them vertically or horizontally in any way. Like basically, we have 2 axes: the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. So we can align the contents in all the 9 ways, depending on what argument do we use. Is it if it is vertical or maybe it is horizontal? We'll see it further in the next slide. Right. Now talking about the arrangements. Arrangements can be done like in a pile or maybe a stack. So like uh, when we arrange the books, we arrange in a piloted manner or maybe a stacked manner, like one above the other or one beside the other. So arrangement is used to specify the arrangement of child elements in a column or maybe a row layouts. We'll discuss about them in any axis direction, maybe horizontal or vertical. We have a set of predefined values for horizontal and vertical arrangements. Let's take a look at the visual representation of basic arrangement. Right. So when aligning in a vertical manner, we may sorry not align, we may arrange. So we may arrange it in a start, maybe center, maybe at the end. For example, how our screen needs to be defined. Let's suppose that we have maybe an image of this type. So this is an img file, and we want to arrange this image maybe to the rightmost corner. So we can use the end arrangement over here. Like for example, if I insert the image function, this is also a function. The image function is also a function in the Compose library. We may use this function to import the image from our local device, or maybe the the disk device to our console. Right. So if I have to arrange that, this image at the end of the screen. So we may apply the end arrangement option, which is a function in Compose. Or if we have to arrange it in a top, center, or bottom manner, or maybe if the image is like this, then we can arrange the image here, here, or here. Right. So these are basically the different arrangement options available in Jetpack Compose. Let's talk about modifiers. Now, as I mentioned that the row and column, these two are the functions already predefined in the Jetpack Compose library, and these may contain over here some specified arguments. The arguments could be like, they may be modifiers, they may be alignments, or they may be arrangements, and a few more, right? So basically here we'll talk about modifiers. We have already talked about alignment and arrangement. So in modifiers, a modifier is an ordered, immutable collection of modifier elements that decorate or add behavior to the Compose UI elements. For example, backgrounds, paddings, and click event listeners decorate or to add behavior to rows, text, or buttons. Uh, for the people who are familiar with web development, so when using CSS, like to modify certain text, for example, if we have a p tag over here and we write certain text, for example, text, and then we close the p tag, and for example, now we have to maybe modify this text, then we choose the style tag or maybe implement the CSS file, and then here we can select the p tag, and then different options are available. For example, the background color, maybe the text color, maybe the font weight, font size, and you can assign them accordingly. So what happens here is that Kotlin is a functional programming language, right? So modifier property itself acts as a function. So if I apply modifier, this is a syntax that modifier is equal to capital M modifier. Now this modifier wrapper class contains many objects, and if we want to import those objects, we have to use the dot operator. For example, in Java or maybe JavaScript, you must have used them. And after using the dot, we have all these categories. For example, the background padding, the set on click listener, and the height, width, size. This again size if you have to specify the size of like the width and the height separately. And we can also like Kotlin has this thing to combine multiple modifiers at a time. For example, if I have to increase the text size and also to change its color, then what we can do is that we can write modifier dot color, and inside it the color name, and again we can add another function dot maybe the font weight or font size, right? So font size, and then again specify the font size over here. So modifier itself contains the objects, and object may contain some certain arguments. So this is how it works, right? Modifiers. We have already talked about the alignments and the arrangements. So what are different types of layouts? Now we have learned that how to deal with the modifiers, the alignments, and the arrangements. Now, what arguments, like what functions do these arguments have? So the first function is box function, or maybe you can say a layout. The second may be column, and third may be a row. If we have to maybe specify some certain elements, for example, this is your mobile screen, and we have to specify a certain text below the other, like it is text 1, and this may be text 2. And if I have to specify the text one below the other, so we can implement the column function, and inside this we can add both these texts. For example, this is text 1 and this is text 2. So when you preview it on your screen, you'll see that, for example, text one is maybe hey, and text two is Android. But you want both these text to be in a separate line. So when you when you will preview this on your screen, you'll see something like hey, Android. Okay. And if you are comfortable with seeing hey Android in a continuous fashion, then there is layout called as row, which arranges all the elements in a row. For example, if this is a row, then it means segregate or subdivide different elements according to how we put them. So for example, this row may contain some certain arguments, for example, modifiers, arrangements, alignments, and we add text 1 and text 2 over here. Then we'll see hey Android continuously. Will not see a sudden like a division in between. Like column, when it aligns the text or maybe arranges them, it arranges them in a stack manner. For example, this is layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4. But in row, it arranges the elements in a piloted manner.
What type of collab is it?
Yeah, someone is saying something.
No, you can go on.
Any doubts? Okay.
Hmm.
Right.
No, go on.
All right. Okay. So after this, we have we have understood the column and the row. Now let's talk about the box function. So in this image, you can see that like for aligning the column, this arranges in a stack manner, and for implementing the row, it assigns it in a very piloted manner. Now, what is box? For example, if I have to add an image, for example, this is the image, and I need to overlap this image with another image. Now, box can't do this thing because it has a very stack implementation. Row can't do this thing because it has a piloted implementation. But the function box, or maybe the layout box, this is also a composable function. It can do this. And if I add an image 1 over here and then below it, image 2 over here, then it will overlap the second image. It depends on how you put the modifiers of this image 1 and image 2. It can also be overlapped in this manner, or maybe it can also be overlapped in this manner, but it will overlap. It will not assign it in a piloted or a stack manner. Box function overlaps one thing over the other. This is also helpful in, for example, if I have to add an image, and over that image I have to add a certain text. For example, this is the image and I have to add a date over here. Then the box function is really helpful over here. So inside box, I add an image, and under this, I add a text maybe, right? This may be a text. So this text will overlap the image and will, depending on where you want to position the text, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here. So it all depends. You have the ability to position the text above the image and inside the box function. So the text may also have certain arguments, maybe modifiers, alignments, and many others, right? So this is the box. Yeah, so the box layout, let me read it once for you. The box layout stacks every child on top of each other. By default, the children will be placed at the alignment dot top start. Now, what was top start? Top start was this thing. So if I add the text over here, this text will be assigned here. This is the image, and the date will be assigned over here. We may change the the text to here, or there, maybe, depending on how the user wants. So this will overlap. For example, if inside the box function I use the text one, like very important text, in the text two random text, so this will overlap both the text and nothing would be clear, right? So box function is used to overlap things over each other. Now column layout, already told, column assigns in a stack manner. If we add an image, then it will come at the top, and if I add a text below it, it will follow the image. It will not overlap. Mind is that it will not overlap in column, cause it stacks children in a vertical sequence. And comparing this with the available layouts in Android development, the closest one is linear layout. Like this is a linear layout when we have to the linear layout may be in a vertical sequence or maybe in horizontal, but right, yeah, the column layout works with vertical orientation. All child items will be arranged vertically at top and aligned horizontally by the start. So that if you guys remember, I told you that this was start, right? And if I have to assign the column orientation or maybe the vertical orientation, so we'll start from here and then we add the images or maybe the elements below it, right? So this is how it will work. Now the row layout, simple, already explained. It will also begin from the start value that was here, and similarly, it will assign the image and the text in a piloted manner, uh, not a stacked manner. But we can merge both these things. Now, if I have to add an image and add two text right beside, so how we can do is by combining both the row and the column layouts. For example, I assign a row. This is a row. This is just a single row, and inside that row, I assign two columns. This would be one column, and this would be second column. And inside that column one, I assign the image. The image will start from here. And inside the column 2, I may assign two text, for example, text 1 and text 2. As this is a column, so the column will orient the both these texts in a stacked manner. But if you also want to add a text or maybe a smaller image beside it, then you may cover the text 1 inside a row. Let me demonstrate it over here. For example, if I choose a row, this may be a row, and inside it, I chose two columns, maybe column 1. So it will divide it any manner. I mean, it depends on how you want to position the division, right? That is also possible. If I assign column 1, it may contain an image, and I assign a column 2. So this will be the second half. This is first column, this is second column, and inside this column 2, I'll add two texts, but the first text will be inside a row. For example, I assign a row over here, and inside that, I assign text 1 and text 2. So this will break this column into certain rows. So it will break it like this, and I have assigned two texts. So for example, this may be T1 and this may be T2. And then outside this row function, because this is inside a column function, this is a parent function, column. So if I go outside the row function and add another text, maybe T3, then this would be arranged in a column manner that is vertical sequence. So the text 3 will be assigned over here. In the same manner as we have created this screen. But if you have to add another text in a similar sequence, like in a horizontal sequence, then we may add a row. We may add many, you may say, nested functions, but this is a functional programming language. So we may add many multiple functions inside one of other, and each and everything depends on how the parent function works. Like what are the arguments of the parent function? For example, if the row function may be uh, the vertical sequence or maybe the horizontal sequence may be defined from the top or the bottom start or maybe the bottom end. So if this is your screen, then this row will align or arrange or maybe get position what the user have entered over here. It doesn't require, because row function, this was the row function. Row function was the parent function of all these children function. So what modifier or what argument we put in this row function itself, it will change the whole of this thing to where the user wants it to be. Maybe over here, or any position that the user desires, right? So yeah, be careful. One thing that you assign correct things in the parent class or the parent function, and accordingly the children functions will also be modified. So this is how it works in the functional programming language. Okay. Now let's talk about the material theme and design. Yeah, the layout section is basically covered. There are a few more functions that I might tell you. The first function being the surface function. Surface function is nothing but just like a box function, but it's like a canvas maybe. Like you assign a certain surface, and you can modify the certain surface in some manner. Maybe change the shape. Like if this is a surface, and you can change the shape to this, or maybe anything like not too much of a maybe a rounded thing, a rounded square shape. So yeah, or change its color to like this may be green, and if I have to change the background color, this may be purple, and many more things, right? So this is one function, and the second function is scaffolding function. This is not used. This might you'll not use this now because we are learning just basic layouts. Uh, we'll talk about this function later on, but yeah, this is used to like navigate in navigation, like uh, I guess. Chandra will cover the navigation stuff. Right, Chandra?
Actually, yeah, in scaffolding, all the basic principles which we use in the material layout, they are all present in the scaffold, and we can use all that. Like if we want to use the app bar, we can use the scaffold, and all of these things are present in the scaffold itself beforehand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chandra has already told you that scaffolding may also take certain arguments, and it can be used to navigate through the tabs or maybe the screens. Right. So these are two functions. Also, there is a third function known as spacer function. Spacer. This is nothing like this is a very normal function. If we have a screen over here, and if we want to separate these two elements away from each other, like to a certain distance. Initially they were close, but now we want to increase the size between them. So we may add a spacer function, and spacer function takes input arguments as DP value. You know what is a DP value? These are digital pixels. Like the unit, there are two units that we use in designing the layout. One is SP and one is DP. So for sizes and stuff, we use the DP value, and for maybe the font size and something, we use the SP value. And how it is used, that we may use it as like modifier. Modifier is the argument and is equals to modifier dot. There's a function called padding. Padding, and inside this you can assign the padding values in DP. So the syntax for this is like if you have to assign an integer value, so like value is equal to maybe 3 dot DP. So it is not just like 3 inches or 3 something something. It is 3 dot DP or maybe 3 dot SP, depending on what function you want to use. Like if you want to use the padding function, that you may assign the digital pixels in a certain like in a variable maybe, and then call the variable to this function itself. for example, value. Or if you don't want to call this function directly over here, you may also write 3.dp itself. So this will this padding function inside the modifier helps you to increase the padding and creates a space around it. Okay? It can be used as a space bound function. You guys may have used in WebP the padding function, right? So an element may contain certain padding, certain margins, and many other things, right? Or border colors. So these things also work in the Android element stuff. You just have to assign a certain function inside the modifier function, or inside the modifier attribute, or maybe outside any other attribute, right? So that was spacer function, and there may be many other functions also, but like for this session, I guess all these functions are enough. Any doubts up till now? I mean, if you want to ask any question. You may respond in chat. If it is clear, then you may write clear in chat, or you may speak it. All right. It's very clear. Okay. So let's come to the material theme and design. Now, material is a design system created by Google itself. Material theme, when we import this function on the library, whatever it is already has been created by Google in order to help teams build high quality digital experiences for Android, iOS, Flutter, or the web. Right? Material over here is a metaphor. I mean, material design is inspired by a physical world text. The theory is written. Let me come to the main part. It contains two subdivisions now. Those are components and theming. Material theme, like if we use material theme, this is a function, material theme, and it contains certain components. That components can be called using the dot function, and you can call this material theme using the import function, or I guess this is already imported by default, this material theme. Right, so it contains certain different components and theming options. In components, we can say that the material components are interactive building blocks for creating a user interface and include a built-in state system to communicate focus, selection, activation, error, hover, press, drag, and disabled states. Components cover a range of interface needs. Maybe it may be a display, it may be certain navigation or an action. For example, if you insert a button, button is also a function. If you have to add a button, then this button function with a capital B, this can also be added, and this button looks something like this with a blue background. Right. With a blue background. You may change because this button function also has many attributes. For example, it may contain like set on click listener, you must have used in JavaScript or something. So yeah, or maybe on click. And it will invoke a function like when you click this button, some certain action proceeds, or maybe a certain value gets entered, or maybe you navigate to some other script. So on-click function executes another function that may execute a certain function. So yeah, this is a functional programming language. Function works within functions. Like this is a function on-click. The attribute, the button is the function. It contains certain attribute known as on-click. And on-click function itself calls another function which may be designed, for example, if it calls maybe fun1. So this fun1 function, it may be designed to execute some particular or maybe specified task, or maybe entering the data, like enter data. We can take an example of like this is the text field, and if you have to enter certain value over here, for example, the user asks you to enter over here, or maybe a search field. Like this is a search field, and you have to search something. So, like if I type that show me some recipes. So if I type the show me some recipes, and then I click the search button over here. So this search button initiates the on-click function, which may execute some other function that is desired to show the results of your search. Like you ask the search engine to show you some different recipes. So this search function will execute that task and will show you the desired recipes, or accordingly whatever the web crawler is designed to expect you to show. Okay. So this is how the button things work. It also has many other modifiers, attributes such as the modifier itself and the color, the shape, many other things. Right. But like when declaring these things, these have a certain specific value. But in the like in the material UI thing, that as it is has been built by Google, so it contains some predefined values that you may use directly into the system. For example, if you have to display something or maybe navigate, it can be used in navigation. It is divided into certain components, or the actions, like allowing users to perform specific tasks using components such as the floating action button. So these are certain buttons, and for taking the inputs, as I've already told you, that text fields take inputs. For example, the search bar or maybe the input field, chips and selection controls. They are some other things. And in navigation, you have certain navigation drawers and tabs. Like this, if this is your screen, then you may have a navigation bar over here that may be divided into certain sections. For example, home screen, then contacts, and then telephone number maybe. And if you have to navigate through the side window, I guess Chandra will cover that thing, and you may refer it to that slides that Chandra will show. Right. So navigation can be done in such stuff. Also, we can communicate with the material UI stuff, like alerting the users to key information and messages using components such as snack bars and other things. For example, if you have to if you have to uh, give an alert message, like in JavaScript, you have this alert message and you alert the user like not to perform certain task or maybe to fill certain entry. In this also you have the same thing. We use snack bars. We use snack bars. We may also use toasts. Toasts also, like the pop-up that you see in your screen, like when you enter or when you miss certain field, that can be handled using snack bars and toasts, right? So the component library contains all these stuff. Now talking about theming, like material theming makes it easy to customize material design and to match the look and feel of your brand with the built-in support and guidance for customizing colors, typography styles, and corner shapes. So, talking about the color stuff, now when I say that when you have to change a certain color of a text, maybe, then what do you use? Like if you have to change this text color in red color, you have the function text over here, and you apply the color property or the color attribute, and inside this you change color, and inside this color function you may insert the hash code of it. You guys may be knowing the hash code, like each color has a hash code or maybe a hex code, right? The 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 hex code defines the a certain color property. It is a 6-digit number, and in Kotlin you may also use 0x from the starting. Or if you don't want to use the hex code, you may also write the RGB thing. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So if you have to, because these are the three primary colors, and if you have to make a certain color using these three colors, so you may use the RGB format of the color function. Or if you don't want to use any of these, right? So don't use this function. Material theme provides you with another property, that is color, and inside this color you may use the dot operator, and inside that uh, inside that this function you have certain attributes to this color function itself. For example, if I have to change the text color in red, I'll use color dot red. Yeah, red, this is an attribute actually. This has been already created by Google UI stuff, uh, and it may contain certain different colors also, like not only red but white, or maybe color dot black, and certain other things. So we can assign colors, and we may assign the shading background that can also be used in the that has also been assigned in the theming section inside that theming file. You may also refer to the theme file by using control click while hovering over to this color function. Like when you use Android Studio, and if you want to open this color function, for example, where does it belong to, or what is the the library file of it. So may use control plus and click on this function, so you will get referred to that the color class basically, or the color file that this function has been written into. So you see that the 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 color function has been defined to many categories. For example, maybe it may be primary colors or light colors and dark colors. So you know that where is it helpful? Like if you have to switch between the modes in using your application. For example, if you are using light mode, then you might use a certain type of colors. So light colors itself contains a specific range of colors that will automatically be assigned to your application. Like wherever do you want to use. If you directly assign the function that is material theme.
Satvik, I think we can move on with hands-on. Like you
All
can
right.
finish this, and you can finish this, and then we can move on with the hands-on.
Yeah. Right. I mean, this is all the color stuff, and you can change this stuff. Simply, we have the typography theme and the shape theme. The material components also have certain shapes, for example, round, small, medium, large, and the other stuff, right? So that's all for the theming stuff. And yeah, let me get with the hands-on session for this. So when you open your Android Studio and create a simple composable file, you may end up with this thing. And when you split your screen into the viewing mode, uh, you may end up looking something like this, right? So this is a text over here, and the text says hello Android. Now when I talk about attributes, I talk about this thing. Like this is a function, text function, that has already been imported using certain files, and when you hover it over this function, so these are the attributes. Like we may have text, we may have modifier, color, font size, font style, font weight, font family, letter spacing, text decoration, and many other things, right? So we can have different attributes to different functions: text, column, row, boxes, many things. So in this thing, uh, let me demonstrate you with an example. For example, if we have to uh, create a screen, and the screen may look like this, and it may have an image over here and a text one, that is the name of this image, and a text two which is smaller but the description of this image, right? And we have certain some things over here like that too. So if I have to create this screen, the first thing that I'll use is the column, right? Because everything gets aligned in either row or column or certain boxes, services, etc. But here we want to add each and everything in a very vertical fashion, that is image, text, and the bottom row or the bar. So for adding image, I may first, this is a function screen, and to display the screen in your split mode, you may use the composable and the preview function. For using the composable functions, you have to use the @composable, and for previewing that composable function, you have to use @preview. So if I have to assign a column, I'll use column in capitals, right? This is a function. I click this. It contains certain attributes, and inside this column, I want to add an image. The image function is image. Like every class function or the library function starts with a capital letter. Right. So if I have to if I have to add an image takes an attribute known as painter, and the painter is that they are. So the syntax for painter is painter resource, and inside this thing you have to specify a photo. It may not, like, it doesn't have to be like .jpg format or .png format directly into this. But first, what we have to know, what we need to do is we have to import a certain uh, image into your resource files. So these are resource files, and the image, all the images come inside the drawables and the map classes that has been, or maybe the folders that have been defined inside the resource file. तो ये सारा प्री डिफाइंड होता है, मतलब इसमें इतना दिमाग नहीं लगाना होता. बट इफ अगर कोई इमेज ऐड करनी है तो यहाँ से रिसोर्स मैनेजर में डायरेक्ट जाके यू कैन ऐड द प्लस साइन एंड इम्पोर्ट ड्राइबल्स. तो यहाँ से जो भी इमेज चाहिए उसको ओके करो एंड नेक्स्ट करो, देन यू मे ऐड द इमेज. I've already added the image known as this content. So inside this, for accessing the image, I use capital R dot. This was inside the drawable folder. So I click drawable dot and then content. That was, I think that was an image. Content one. Wait. Yes, that is not accessible. Let me try another image. It may be. Acha, that was in that second resource manager. Okay. So if I have to implement a certain, because this drawable, right? This drawable, that was my second application, and that had many images. So when using your just one module, that this is known as module, and by using just one module, like if you have to access drawables, let me change my module. Right. So this is the module, and if I have to add an image, I'll click import drawables, and I have an image known as pizza over here. I'll click next, I'll import it. So yeah, now we have an image over here. Now if I add, right, so now it shows that you have an image, and you may also assign a certain content description. For example, if I assign it a REC recipe, okay. So this will add an image, and below that image, if you want to add a text, then we can use text. This is also a function. And what do we want to write? That is the name of the recipe. For example, recipe name is pizza. And by writing the attributes, separated them by commas, right? So now if you want to add an attribute, for example, a modifier. So I'll add a certain modifier, or maybe not a modifier, maybe font size. And we have font size over here. And while assigning the font size, we may directly add the input value, for the integer value, and that is example 10.bt. yeah, DP is the digital pixels that, what is it showing here?
It should be SP actually.
Right, it should be SP. Yeah, we are assigning a font size, not the padding. So यहाँ पे ऐसा like text आ जाएगा और उसके नीचे if you have to add another text, then we may add certain description to it. We may write like this is my first recipe, and yeah, maybe this one. And we have to separate it by some certain space. Then we can add a modifier. That is, modifier is equal to capital modifier dot padding. This is how we write. Like this is the function. This is a modifier function. Uh, this this text contains an attribute, and this attribute itself works as a function, that modifier dot padding. And inside the padding we can type some. You have to import this. तो ये सब import already कर लेना. ठीक है. So we add this text, and it may take some time to display the things that we have created, right? The column function may also have some modifiers. For example, if I have to vertically align, so these are when you scroll it over above the function, so it shows you that it can have modifier of vertical arrangement, horizontal alignment, that I've already covered. So if I have to add a vertical arrangement, then we can write arrangement dot maybe center. So that will be arranged in a vertical center fashion. And if you also have to align it in a horizontal alignment, then we can add alignment dot center horizontally. So these are also functions. थोड़ा सा ये टाइम लेता है, मतलब इशू मतलब होता है लोड होने में. When you suddenly import an image and then try to preview it, it may take some time. Chandra, do you have any idea that why it is not previewing this thing?
Actually, sometime there is some rendering problem. You can run the app and show the results.
I may run
It's
the
the
app.
problem with Android too.
So while running the app, you may choose your app that which module do you want to run it, and यहाँ पे उस phone का नाम, like ये emulator होता है. Emulator के बारे में I have already shared a slide and I'll share it again if you want. So यहाँ पे you may choose that image, the Android image, which is also known as the Android version. For example, PQRS, whatever do you use, and the API version of it. So यहाँ से उसको download कर लेना, and if we run this app like directly into the emulator, like on screen. So yeah, as you can see that the image has been inserted, and this is the preview function. Like this was the preview function, and like by using it with the composable function, we can preview the things that we have created. So if I zoom it, I have added an image over here, and below it I have added the name of my recipe and the description of it. तो उसको किसी भी तरीके से मतलब जैसे यहाँ तो यहाँ मैंने क्या किया लाइक कॉलम को ही पूरा वर्टिकली और हॉरिजॉन्टली अलाइन कर दिया तो वो सब कुछ सेंटर में आ गया. बट अगर क्योंकि कॉलम वाज अ पेरेंट फंक्शन एंड इनसाइड दैट वी हैड टेक्स्ट, सो टेक्स्ट भी बीच में आ गया. तो यहाँ पे पेरेंट एंड चाइल्ड का को रिलेशन तो काफी मैटर करता है. अगर टेक्स्ट बीच में नहीं चाहिए थे तो कॉलम को rather than shifting the whole the column to the center and center horizontal, you may just shift the image to the screen borders and text को मत करना. ठीक है, तो अगर टेक्स्ट को नहीं करोगे तो फिर टेक्स्ट ऑलरेडी यहाँ पे रहेंगे जहाँ पे टॉप स्टार्ट में. लाइक अगर इसको हटा दो तो वो टॉप स्टार्ट में आ जाता है. ठीक है, तो इसके नीचे भी मतलब यू मे ऐड डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ फंक्शन. फॉर एग्जांपल वी मे आल्सो ऐड अ रो, right? So inside a row we may also have certain text, like text is equal to text1 and text is equal to text2, and we may add a spacer function in between to create a space. Modifier is equal to modifier dot size maybe 5 dot pt. ठीक है, सो व्हाट विल यू डू कि अब जो रो फंक्शन है वो कॉलम के अंडर है, सो कॉलम के नीचे ही एक रो बनेगी, कॉलम के अंदर एक रो बनेगी, बट वो रो में दो और टेक्स्ट होंगे. जैसे हाँ वी सी ओवर हियर दैट below this thing we have certain text, that is text1 and text2, and between those texts we have certain spacer, that is the space that we want to add between two functions or components. ठीक है, तो इस टाइप से पूरा लेआउट डिजाइन करा जा सकता है. और भी चीजें होती हैं लाइक अगर इसको पूरे एक कार्ड व्यू में डाल दें तो यहाँ से उसको कॉर्नर से कर्व भी कर सकते हैं. सो दैट इज अ थिंग फॉर अनदर टाइम, and I guess we are up for it up to the time. The next thing we'll cover is the navigation stuff, and I guess Chandra will take this, right, Chandra?
Yeah.
Okay, so I might stop sharing, and if you guys have any doubts, then you might ask it in the meet itself.
Yeah, you can ask it right now. Okay.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
Thanks, Satvik. So, hello everyone. My name is Chandramali Sharma. I am the app dev lead at GDSC IIIT Sonepat. And today in this Compose camp, we will be studying about navigations. So before studying about navigation, like we have seen before, like Satvik told you how to make pages and how to make a single page app. Now, if we want, we can't always make a single screen app. We will require a 2-page app or a 3-page app or one or many. So for that, we need navigation to navigate from one page to another. That's why we use navigation. And for setting up, let's see how we can set up the navigation. So for setting up, the most important thing for any developer is going through the documentation of the thing he is working on. So we will see the dependencies which are needed for setting up the navigation. These are the dependencies which are required, and then we will put these dependencies in here in the module Gradle module of our app. This I have put over here already. It's already here. You can paste it, and then it will ask for, like, if I paste it right now, it will not, but when I will change it, it will ask me for syncing the project so that dependencies can be there. And if I put it again, then it will sync the project. Now my project has a dependencies of navigation. So before moving to navigation, let's see what are the other things which are needed, like backstack. So what is a backstack? So whenever you push a button or click a button, Android creates a stack in like this. It is a stack which is offers screens. It is a stack of screens in which every screen is upon another. It is called backstack because when we use it is used when we have to navigate back to the screen which we were from. So the stack is created in such a way that the new screen which we want to go back is popped after that, and we see what is navigation controller. It is actually the or it is the central of all the things. It converts the backtracking, and it is used for managing the state of the apps across the navigation and all other things. What is host? It actually manages all the nav controller and all the graphs uh, for the destinations and all the things. So let me tell you actually how all of these things work. Means it's quite vague terms, but let me tell you. So from beforehand, I created a function, this composable function with the composable annotation, and we have a nav controller. So what we need right now, like before creating all these things, let's create some screens. For that, I will be making a package name you, because we will studying about the app architecture after this, but I will tell you like create keeping all the things in another folder, and separation of the concern is always appreciated in every type of development. So like let's create a hello screen right now. So this is a hello screen. Let's make it as a composable function, and name this function as a hello screen. And in this, I what I will do right now, I will use a scaffold. Why I'm using a scaffold? Because I need some basic um, I need some basic layouts which are present in the material layout. So I can scaffold can help me in this, and so I'm using it. And then I will use a column. In with column, I would use alignment, horizontal alignment, in which I will align it horizontally center. And actually, what I'm trying to do is I want to make a button centered in a page. So for that, I want to arrangement also. I want to make it to the center, and for this to be in a whole uh, screen, I will do a modifier dot fill max size. So it will fill the whole screen with this, and then after we will put a button. This button actually will help us in navigating from one screen to the another. So like you can see a lambda function over here, which you can use to navigate from one to another screen. What we will do, we will put a and put hello over here. Let's import this. It's asking for import. So this is a text, and let's do one thing. Let's see if it's working. I will pass in name over here and create a name argument in this also. Okay. Now this is almost done. Let me show you of how it looks right now. So let's pass a name Android only here, and let's see. See, it would look somewhat like this. I have a button in middle, and clicking on this won't do any effect. So what I have to do, actually, I will create another screen also. Let's create another screen. Let's call it a buy screen, and it is another composable. So we will using a composable annotation with this, and then we have a buy screen. Okay. And with this also, I will be using the same layout, nothing change. It's the same layout. I'm using the scaffold, then a column, and instead of hello, I would use here by and a name. Okay, so this is also created now. It's the same we created before, but how are we going to navigate through it? So the main thing which is required for this is the nav host, which manages all the thing, all the nav controller and the destination and the source, all the thing it manages. So I will be creating a package named navigation. In navigation, I will create a class which is, I will name it test nav host. You can name it anything. So in the test nav host, what we are actually making it through a composable only. It's also a composable function. So let's name it test host, and then all right, this. So we will have a nav host in this. Now nav host takes three arguments. It's a nav controller, graph, and modifier. So we will not be using a graph. Rather, we will be passing all the composable as a graph over in the graph itself. So let's pass the composable. Before that, what I will do is before that, let's do one thing. Let's have a nav host, nav controller over here, and this should be a nav host controller actually, because this requires a nav host controller. So these both are the same thing. It is actually a wrapper. So around nav controller, nav host. So it's the same thing. And then we will have our composables. This requires a string which is having our starting destination. So for starting destination. Now for the starting destination, what we will do is create another class, name test screens, right? What we will do, we will actually make this as a enum class. What is an enum class? Those who are doing Java, they would know, like, this is used for storing a constant values. So what I will do, I will create some constant values like hello and bye. So now I can access those over here, the screen dot hello dot name. What I did is I'm passing them this route, the destination string. What is this destination string? Like, if you want to access some kind of website, you go on your Chrome and you just put w sorry you go on your Chrome and you put www.google.com. All of these things you do. So that is the destination. From you are passing the string over there. Same way we are passing over here, and then it takes a composable which has all of the nav controller, which take all the nav controller, and then we put the routes. In this, we have a route as firstly, I'm using the hello one, hello dot name, and then I will be putting the hello screen over here, the hello screen, this one which I made, and putting in the name Android over here. Okay, and then I will create another composable which has a route as test screen dot by dot name, and then we will do a by screen. I will pass a by screen, and here also we have Android, right? Okay. So till now, we have done all these things, and now what we have to do? We have to connect this nav host to our main app. Like I will remove this and put a nav host over here, and what this composable requires is the nav host. So what I will do, create a nav controller over here. I will make it using a nav controller. Remember nav controller, and then we will pass this nav controller to the test nav host. After that, if we run, nothing would happen actually, no changes, because now also I have not actually linked the page. I have not told this button that I have to move from this page to another. So for that, I will go to the hello screen again, and within this lambda function, what I will do, put um, I would require nav controller over here. So what I will do, I will put a nav controller over here, and then nav controller dot navigate, and I will put the destination. As I told you, I would need that string which I use to, I want to move to by dot name, and yeah, it will pass. Still one thing is left. We will go to nav host. This requires a nav controller. So like now we are moving from one screen to another. Now what what is the next thing we could see, like if it's working or not? Let's see if we can move the back. We can move back, like can we pop it? Like clicking over here don't do anything. If we want to move back to the home screen, what we will do is we would require a nav controller over here also, and then over here we will do nav controller dot navigate test screen dot hello dot name. Now what this would do, if I generally run this, it would stack upon there. Like firstly it will be hello, then it will be bye, then again it will be hello. And for that to not happen, I will use a function that is pop up to, and pass in the figure like to by dot name. I will remove that pop up, and then I will run it. Sorry, yeah, I forgot to pass the nav controller over here. Now, as you can see, like we are moving, and then Like the back button is also working, and the stack is uh, don't have any problem with this. So like this, you can navigate in your app. The second topic we have is passing arguments. So for passing arguments, what I will do is I have a name over here, right? So I will see if it's passing. Like I can change the name over here, and this won't be same. Do we have questions? Yeah, Vanshaj, they are like IDs for our screens. We use them as our IDs. They are a constant value, so I separated in them in a class. So passing arguments. What we will do, like I change this, and you can see these two are not the same. Okay. So for that, what we will do is we will pass the arguments from here. And for passing that arguments, what we will do, you can see like the composable has four arguments, that is route, arguments, deep links, and content. Deep links we can study afterwards. Like we can have a separate session for deep links. Yeah. But for now, we can go with arguments. So what we will do for arguments, we will have arguments, and then we will pass in a list of arguments, and for and in that we will have a nav argument. What is nav argument? It is actually a named argument which you can pass, and here, like for that, we would need like passing it as a endpoint. What you can do is pass them as an endpoint, like I did here, like plus slash name. If anyone knows about this, like in between the curly brackets we gave pass in the name, and so we use the same name over here, and then we specify the type over here. We have to specify the type over here, and it is of type string. So as you can see, let me close this. You can As you can see, we have a endpoint which is for passing the arguments. Added it, and then we in arguments we use a name arguments, and then we specified the type of that. And after that, what we will be doing, then pass it with this it. As you know, in lambda function we can reference the variable with it also, or you can put a name over here like backstack entry. Why are we calling it a backstack entry? Because when we are moving from a page to another, it's from our back stack, so we are calling it it is a backstack entry, and then we will put it as arguments. It should not be null, and then get a string, which should be the key should be it's working like a hash map. The key should be name, and it's giving an error because it should not be null, so I will use a not null operator over here. Or you can do another thing. You can go in a by screen and put a not nullable variable over here, but it won't be null because I am passing it by hard coding. So this we have, yeah. So after I have to pass this, what changes would be required in the hello screen? Like, because from the hello screen we are moving, so what we will do, I will do plus this, and I will pass in compose, right, to see like the changes are being made or not. I will pass in compose, and in the buy screen, we don't have really much changes over here. And yeah, I think we can run this. Would work. Yeah, you can see the arguments are being passed. In the same way, if you want to pass any information from one screen to another, you can use the passing of the arguments in your app. Same way we use it. Like over here, I pass the compose, and if I can change it, like make it Jetpack Compose. So yeah, see, like this is how you can navigate and pass on the arguments in your app. So the next topic we will look into is the app architecture. So can anyone in the audience tell me what is architecture? Like not app architecture, just architecture. What is architecture? Anyone? Okay, so no one. So actually, what is an architecture? It's actually designing technique of anything. Like if you want to design a building, the construction is another thing. The architecture is the main thing, which like what is the design, how, what is the technique you should use. In the same way, while developing an app, what are the technique, what is the design pattern, what are the things, the project design, how your project should be, all of these comes into an architecture. And app architecture is how are we going to design a app, what are the things we will use, what are the techniques we would use in our app, is app architecture. So what is an architecture? So what are the principles of app architecture is separation of concern. Like most of you know, like if you do something and mess up all of them, and if you go back after to that thing after many time, you won't recognize like what I have to do and what from where I have to start it again. So that's why we need separation of concern. Like if we do use separation of concern, we will know like where are the things I have to pick it up and use it. So for that, we would need separation of concern and to make our code more modular also. Drive UI from data models, like if putting all the things in the same screen, same thing, like if you are making an API call and doing it from the same function itself and not using another thing, would be mainly very hectic, and it's not a good practice also. Single source of truth is also the same which we discussed earlier, and it is another is unidirectional data flow. It's like like in Jetpack Compose, we all the value which changes is a state, and when we respond to that changes is a event. So for when we move from one to another say UI layer or another screen, there is always a state change. And for that state change is mainly because a event happened, like a button click happened, so a state change. You are typing in a text field, and so also the state change. And for this is all defined under a unified data flow. And what are the recommended model which uh, Android documentation has provided us? It is dividing it into UI layer, domain layer, and data layer. UI layer would contain all your UI stuff, the views, and all the thing. Data layer would contain all your models, the data which you are fetching from the servers, and all the things. Similar, all the things. Like we can use it with the view models and other things. But I think we don't have that much time for implementing the view model right now. Or Satvik, should we?
Uh, I mean, like if the audience are interested, yeah, they can respond to it. Like, yeah, do you guys wanna see how the view modeling thing works, or should
Like,
we skip it for another time? Yeah, just we can show a really short glimpse of it. Yeah.
okay. So what? So let's see actually what a view model is and why would we need a view model firstly. Like if we are doing it like let me create a function which has like in this page only. Let's have a text above this, and in this let's have a score which is I remember by remember mutable of state and put passing in the default value as 0. Let's import the okay. All the imports are made. So now I will pass in the score over here as the text and then convert this to a string, right? Now for a change, let's remove this. I think navigation is not needed right now. So what actually view model does is it survives the it is used along with actually a observable like this the counter is changing. Okay, now this counter changed. Now if I will rotate this, just a minute, the auto rotation, yeah. Now as you see, it was 4 and it became 0. So actually it's not didn't survive the changes, the configuration changes. So if I use saveable over here, it could survive configuration change. Like here we made it to 3, then when we rotate it back, it survived the configuration change. But most of the time it won't work, and you can't always use remember saveable for all of the things in your app, and it's also not a very good practice. So what we will do for this, we will use a view model which will survive all of the configuration changes and other things. And okay, for that let's create a model. So we will be actually using a MVVM architecture. What is, sorry, I created a class. We will be using MVVM architecture. It's actually view, it's actually model, view, and view model. So view is the screen which we have. We will be creating a model. Model actually denotes how your data would look on a screen. It's only how. It's not in how you will represent it on a screen. It's actually the content of the data. So what I will do is create a class, and let's create it for a user, and I will create a data class. And what is a data class? It actually, what it does is it actually initializes all the constructor and all the things on a beforehand. So let's have a ID and let's create a string and let's also have a name. Okay, create a name. Now, if we want a view model for this, let's have a separate package for a view model. Let's name is let's name it as user view model. Right? Now, the user view model inherits from user from view model class and this. What are the things we would required in a user? So what I was thinking, like we can have a list of users with us. So let's put it like this. Let's have a user, which is obviously a mutable state of list, and obviously the here in Angular brackets, as you know, we pass in the data type. It's the user data type. We defined it over here. It's actually the use of a class. Oh, let's define users with a list, and then we will use a getter in case. Yeah. Then we have fun. We will be actually adding users dynamically. So what we will do is users dot add. Sorry, there's no users. It's user dot add user. So this is made. So let's see on how are we going to integrate. The model is done. The view model is done. So what we are left with is view. How are we going to integrate this with our view? So if we have a scaffold, as you can see, like we have a action button also over here. No, for a reason, for a change, let's leave it over there. Won't use a floating action button right now. Let's put a lazy column over here. In the lazy column, what we would do is it's provided with the content item, and as you all know, like we pass in with the view model. So for view model, what we will do, we will define the view model over here. LVM by remember and then we have a user view model, and then we will pass in the users over here. So we have a name and a ID over here. What we will do, we will make a row. In that row, we will have firstly text. In the text, we will put it dot, sorry, not it. Let's create a variable over here. Let's name it dot name. Hmm. Okay, sorry. It should be items. Yeah, now it would work. Now this should be text it dot id. So firstly the names, and then we will put on the IDs. And for the space, we will use a spacer over here, a modifier dot size of 10 dp. So all the things are done, except like the names are not. The list is all not populated yet. So what we will do is uh, put a vm dot add user, and then we will add a user with, obviously I will do some random names over here, and then pass in, this is not the id, sorry. Let's make the id as score plus plus, or score string, and then pass it a name. Okay. What else we will do over here is do score plus plus, or just do one thing. Let's do one thing. Instead of doing this, let's, sorry, let's pass a range, and from that range we will find a random, and then it's range of 100. Okay, so this is how it looks. Let's see, like, if it works or not. Now you can see, like, the list is increasing, and if we change the, okay, the list goes, okay, so the problem is actually we are not using an observable data class with this. So when we don't use an observable data class, so just a minute, what we can do is use a by remember savable with this, and put this inside this. And we would need the imports. So actually we can't use a remember, but we have to use an observable class over here, like live data or a state flow, for this to not change on a configuration chain. And for that we will have another session, like, because this can't be covered right now. This is a pretty long topic, and for surviving the configuration change, this would be necessary, like using observable data class, because the remember would not work inside a non-composable function, and so it would be pretty much required. And if you guys have any question, you can ask. I think no questions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks. Thanks, Atvik.
Yeah, thanks a lot everyone for joining the event. And yeah, it was very good actually. The concept, few concepts even I didn't know, and you covered it really well.
Thanks. Okay, guys. See you.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for this guys.